Are they saying, you know what, we're not going to work with Turkey because they illegally occupy northern Cyprus? We're just not going to do it. And the Armenian people have been ethnically cleansed from Azerbaijan, 250,000 of them. We are not working with anybody there, given what they've done to the Armenian people. We are not dealing with China because they threaten to invade almost daily Taiwan. They don't do any of that. It's only the Jews, the Jews, the Jews, the Jews.
Hello, ladies. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome to the Victor Davis Hanson Show. I'm Jack Fowler. The host. Victor, though, is the star, and he is the Martin and Ely Anderson Senior Fellow at the Hoover Institution, the Wayne and Marcia Buskey Distinguished Fellow in History at Hillsdale College, a man possessed of a website, The Blade of Perseus. Its address, victorhanson.com. Do go. Check it out. Do subscribe. $65 a year, $6.50 a month. Why would you do that? Because you're a fan of Victor. And twice a week he writes an exclusive article for The Blade of Perseus. Once a week he does an exclusive video. He also does a daily video for the Daily Signal. You should check that out too. Victor, I forget already, didn't we mention the date? Sunday, September 14th. That's the day we're talking right now. And this particular episode will be up on Thursday, September 18th. And we're going to begin the show talking about Dem Jews. And we're going to do that when we come back from these important messages. We are back with the Victor Davis Hanson Show. Victor, we're going to start off the show with two stories about Jews and Israel. And here's the headline. Jerry Seinfeld slams Free Palestine movement, comparing it to historical hate group. Comedian Jerry Seinfeld compared the Free Palestine movement to the Ku Klux Klan during a surprise appearance this last week at Duke University, saying both groups don't like Jews. The Seinfeld creator attended a campus event for Omer Shem Tov, an Israeli hostage abducted by Hamas during the October 7th, 2023 terror attacks. Was held captive for 505 days. Seinfeld gave a brief introduction to Shem Tov before ridiculing anti-Israel activists, joking that at least the KKK was honest about their hatred for Jews. Free Palestine is, to me, just, you're free to say you don't like Jews. Just say you don't like Jews, Seinfeld said. By saying Free Palestine, you're not admitting to what you really think, he continued. So it's actually, compared to the Ku Klux Klan, I'm actually thinking the Klan is actually a little better here because they come right out and say, we don't like blacks. We don't like Jews, okay? That's honest. Yeah, he's
I was surprised he said that. He's right that they both are hate groups, although I don't know if the Free Palestine people have yet started to hang people or lynch them or kill them. But he's got a point when you look at what the Free Palestine movement does. I mean, we saw at MIT where they rushed Jews. We saw at the Cooper Union University, remember? They were in the library and they were chased by kind of like it was like zombies. They were banging on the window to get in, and the Jewish kids were in the library. And then we had the former Stanford student, now Harvard review, that when a Jew walked by, he pushed them. Remember that? He tried to. Then they gave him a special award.
Mm-hmm.
Harvard,
with money.
With money.
Yeah.
I think it was 60,000. I may be a mistake. I'm doing this from memory.
Yep.
So
UCLA. Yeah.
UCLA, the same thing. They had to settle. So the university's attitude was, we're liberal, we can't be, and we have a lot of Jewish professors, so we can't be accused of being anti-Semitic. And the Jewish students are peaceful, and they don't cause us problems. But the Free Palestine people can be violent, and we're afraid of our job. So if we just favor them and give them what they want and let them harass Jews, we'll just sort of say it has nothing to do with Jewishness, it has everything to do with Israel. And that's what they've done. And then the Trump administration came in and started to call them to an account. One of the things Trump is doing, he's been talking the last 3 or 4 days about racketeering. And everybody thinks that's crazy and it's McCarthyism. But if you start thinking about it, And if you look at all of these Soros groups that were funding, Boudin, for example, in San Francisco, and these district attorneys and prosecutors that were letting people out. I'm not talking about them specifically, but that type of activity. And you can trace that they gave money to people who were violently in Antifa or things, and these people were targeting Jews. I say this because when you looked at the Columbia thing and a lot of these unrest, did you see that all of the blankets or the tents, they all were the same, that they had been purchased. So if they could find out who was funding these groups, and if these groups had been violent, then I think they might have a point that somebody was funding violent semi-terrorist groups. We'll see if that's true.
Yeah.
But
my old colleague Bill McGurn at the Wall Street Journal used to say, RICO is for guys named Rico, but we should remember that the Supreme Court approved the use of RICO, the racketeering statutes against pro-lifers.
They used it against Donald Trump. Fannie Willis did. Remember, she said that questioning an election was a racketeering charge. It was ridiculous. Which, by the way, just stream of consciousness, oh my, how they have fallen. Jack Smith is just sputtering around trying to cover his tracks about his ill-fated prosecutions of Trump, that he got all of this free legal aid and that was not a gift. He didn't have to report it to the IRS. It wasn't a conflict of interest. Letitia James, it just keeps getting worse for her. She's going to be in trouble when she either lied about her properties, about her prime residence, which was what the person in the Federal Reserve apparently did. Then there's Fannie Willis, who's been in all sorts of trouble. The only one that has emerged so far, Alvin Bragg, and that's weird because his was the most egregious in many ways, taking a federal, bootstrapping it to nothing. But it's funny how the boomerang is coming around for them all.
Yeah, and what connects some of them too, as you mentioned, Letitia James, and oh my gosh, why can't I remember his name?
Which one?
Your senator, the one with the big head. Adam Schiff.
I thought he had a big neck, not a head.
Whatever. And then, and you go back to Chris Dodd, who used to be my senator here. This penchant for trying to lie about mortgages is just, it seems like one of their
especially if they're on the Federal Reserve or they're the New York Attorney General. They're supposed to set a standard. And I think there's going to be a lot of reckoning, and the left's getting its talking points that this is a revenge tour, a Wyatt Earp revenge tour, this is retribution. But actually it's not. It's just going back and following the law. We were living in 4 years of lawlessness under Joe Biden. And the attack on ICE is because they're enforcing the law. 75% of the people that they're going after are either criminals or they're people with previous detention orders, and they didn't show up. So there should be no controversy about those people. One of them just tried to kill an ICE person, run him over. And they lower the bar on violence on that as well. The other thing that I saw recently, Jack, is that there's a number of officers who have gone on social media and they have cheered on the killing of Charlie Kirk. And some of them have said things about Trump. And of course, Article 88 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice says that officers are prohibited, not just while in uniform, but it has been interpreted, I think, judicially to reply to retired officers. They are not to disparage the commander-in-chief, nor are they disparage. And it lists a cabinet officer. One of them has been attacking Mike Johnson. But when we got into this fascist stuff, it was Mark Milley who, during the campaign, remember, he said that Donald Trump was a fascist. He said that again and again and again. He was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And then I don't know if he was referring to Trump when he was president or as ex-president. I'm not sure what he was. But General Kelly, who I admired, he'd lost a son in battle. It was a great American. He said, no doubt about it, he's a fascist. General McCaffrey while Trump was president, said he was Mussolini while he was president. We went about General Hayden, remember the director of the CIA, Air Force General, he put pictures of Buchenwald, Auschwitz, on there and said Trump was using these techniques as if he was a jailer at Auschwitz. I really like Admiral McRaven. I've always liked him. He's a patriot, but he should not have written 2 op-eds saying that Donald Trump should be removed sooner the better from office when we had scheduled elections. I won't go into some of the people who are my colleagues who've said these things, but my point is nobody enforced that. So I think what you're going to see is this administration is going to enforce the Uniform Code. There's people who've talked about it, and it's been on social media. So if you're an officer and you think you're going to go in and say Trump is a fascist and a Nazi, and you publicize those views, you're going to be subject to court-martial under Article 88. And it's not going to be retribution. It's going to be long overdue, because you cannot have a military when you have freelancing officers of high rank who take people into battle, who say that their commander-in-chief is a Nazi or a fascist. It's not sustainable.
Yeah. Fascist doesn't mean a fascist. Fascist is I'm a political equivalent, I guess, of racist. But what is a fascist, Victor? Like, what
I
is?
Can tell you what a fascist is. A fascist is a person who either assumes power through an election or by unlawful means, and then tries to promulgate a nationalist extreme agenda as a way of extra legally operating the government and punishing enemies and opponents extra legally. So if they say Donald Trump was a fascist, then he took power either illegally or once he was in, he destroyed the mechanisms of power. So empirically, all you who call him fascist, he's been the subject of a number of lower court decisions. I don't think that he's ignored them. He's appealed every one of them to the circuit, and he's been stayed. They turned a plane around in midair. So he's following judicial orders. I don't think he's spying on his enemies, Joe. I don't think he's doing that in the way that Hillary Clinton did or Joe Biden kind of did with the 51 intelligence. He has not weaponized I know you don't like Kash Patel, you out there on the left, but it's not like he's going after parents at school board meetings. He's not going after traditional Catholics. He's not going after his enemies. And we know that the head of the intelligence agencies are not told to lie, and they did lie under oath. Brennan at least twice and Clapper once. James Comey pled amnesia 245 times. Kevin Kleinsmith forged a document, FISA document. He's not done any of that. They have done that to him with the lawfare, the Bragg crazy suit, the James. The Fannie Willis, the Jack Smith, and the E. Jean Carroll were all travesties and warping of the legal system. Trump hasn't done that. He hasn't taken the legal system. John Bolton's not in jail. John Bolton is just simply, they didn't reopen the John Bolton case. They got information that a foreign intelligence agency had tapped his emails, and the emails allegedly revealed things that might have been classified, and they're investigating them. And if it was not true, he will not be prosecuted. But I don't understand the people who tried to destroy the legal system, whether it's letting in 12 million illegal aliens, call somebody a fascist who's trying to restore it and legally deporting people. So I don't get that.
Yeah. Victor, one of our listeners, fans, etc., Julian Arceo, Arceo, emailed me asking for your comments about Hollywood A-listers signing a petition to support the boycott of Israeli film institutions. And these A-listers include Emma Stone, Olivia Colman, Mark Ruffalo, Susan Sarandon, several thousand, by the way, including other Hollywood workers. And there's an article from Fox News that says, inspired by filmmakers united against apartheid, who refused to screen their films in apartheid South Africa, we pledge not to screen films, appear at, or otherwise work with Israeli film institutions, including festivals, cinemas, broadcasters, and production companies that are implicated in genocide and apartheid against the Palestinian people. The pledge, this is the pledge several thousand of these churches have signed. Paramount, by the way, told them this is crap. Paramount has derided these signers. And Victor, I don't know, it just reminds me, if this was a storefront, these people would have painted, they'd be painting Juden on the
yeah,
stores.
I just don't know what their standards are. Are they saying that they're not going to participate in any film that is merchandised in China, where people harvest organs from live people, and there's 1 million Uyghurs in work camps, labor camps, or maybe not, you can even call them concentration camps? Do they object to that? Are they saying, you know what, we're not going to work with Turkey because they illegally occupy northern Cyprus? We're just not going to do it. And the Armenian people have been ethnically cleansed from Azerbaijan, 250,000 of them. We are not working with anybody there, given what they've done to the Armenian people. We are not dealing with China because they threaten to invade almost daily Taiwan. They don't do any of that. It's only the Jews, the Jews, the Jews, the Jews. So I don't know what is wrong with the Hollywood left. I'm not part of it. I don't know them, but I have a feeling I could guess what it is, and that is they feel that the majority culture, maybe not of the producers or the investors, but the majority culture of directors and fellow actors, the people and agents who get people jobs, feel that it is a culture custom to attack Israel. And if you do that, you are accepted. And if you don't do that or you support it, then you're ostracized. So like sheep, like the 51 intelligence authorities or the 200 economists, that's what they do. It's a career move. If you ask any of those actors, could you please explain what started the 73 war? Could you please explain how many people were killed on October 7th and why it happened? They couldn't. They couldn't at all. Could you ask them, why didn't Hamas carry out one election after its first? Why did Hamas liquidate the Palestinian Authority rivals? Who withdrew from Gaza and turned over the entire country to the Palestinians for free elections, which they did? They immediately voted for Hamas. One election, one time, never again. It's a dictatorship. That's a fascist dictatorship, by the way, because it persecutes people by their ethnic and religious affiliations. It's a typical fascist organization. And yet they champion it. They love Hamas. So when you say Hollywood actors, there's Netflix, there's Amazon streaming, there's Hulu, there's Sling. There's so many different things going on now that the whole movie audience is so fragmented. I see all these people on the internet and they say, wow, the star of this, the star of... I don't even know. I've never heard of them. I've never seen them. But the big movie, I'm Robert De Niro, I'm Cher, I'm Barbara Streisand, I say this, Mark Ruffalo. I don't, that they're either out of it or they don't have a market anymore, or there's so many stars now and so many, it's just fragmented. They're like professors. There's thousands of professors. So when they find some obscure nut who loves, violence and he's cheering, he's at Michigan. There was an education guy in Michigan that says how wonderful Charlie Kirk was to be killed. You think, well, who are you? I mean, you're just a dime a dozen careerist who's trying to get famous for a second so you'll get another fellowship from the Gates Foundation. Come on. And that's what it is. I mean, Hollywood and the big movie studios. And maybe the other thing I think they should be very careful. Larry Ellison is, I guess last week he was the richest man in the world.
For a day, yeah.
For a day.
Have you come across him?
Yes, I have.
Travels?
I was at a institutional dinner, and he was there. And he flew all the way out to speak to us. And he's 81, 80. He looks about 60. That was when I had the worst of this infection, and I walked in when he walked in. I took my seat. I was kind of near him, too, in the front row, and at a table, and he was so much more, I thought, wow, I want to be 81 like him. But my point I'm making is that when he was asked questions from the audience and the interlocutor, they were the kind of questions you think you would expect to predict. Are you worried about the United States? What's your views on the Trump administration? And it was just incredible. He just stunned everybody. I wish I was younger. We are on the start of a renaissance. We have never seen people in Silicon Valley get rid of their billions in capital, and they are investing in robotics, they are investing in drones, they are investing in artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, cryptocurrencies, many nuclear plants, electric generation. They are creating a flood of foreign investment coming in here, 10, 12 million, trillion dollars. This is going to be the most exciting renaissance since the Industrial Revolution. And then he got into, somebody who was with a military background said, do you see a role for pilotless aircraft? He said, can a pilot do 9 Gs? Barely. He said a drone with its same size plane can go 19 Gs. So he said, we're going to see things in avionics, naval warfare we've never seen before. And we're going to ensure that the United States is the preeminent. And he said, I can guarantee you there's been a change of heart in Silicon Valley. I wrote an article about the War Production Board of World War II that Trump was trying to enlist people who originally didn't like him. Larry Ellison was always very empirical. He wasn't hard left at all. I think he gave to both campaigns for a while. But now he's decidedly in the Trump campaign, and his son, I think, isn't he acquiring CBS and Paramount?
And allegedly putting Barry Weiss in some
I have a feeling that the CBS anchors may be going home.
Heads are exploding.
And I think some of the actors will not be getting, and I think he's setting a trend that there are people now in Silicon Valley. It's not just old Peter Thiel that they beat up on all the time so unfairly because he's such a nice guy and he's so smart. But I think they're starting to see, gosh, maybe we have Bloomberg, maybe we have Gates still, but my gosh, what they used to call them brilliant when they were giving billions of dollars to the left, but now they're oligarchs. They think they've lost Bezos on the Washington Post. They've lost Elon. They may have lost Zuckerberg. They've lost David Sachs. They've lost Ellison. They're losing all of these people because these people look at these crazy people in their corporations that come out of Stanford or Berkeley and Silicon Valley, and they go to HR, they complain, they boycott things, they try to subvert, and
Yeah, so let's have a
Mark Andreessen said that. He outlined it in an interview. And then the Biden administration thought that they can control these people. It said, okay, give all the money to us like Sam Bankman-Fried, and then you can do it. We won't regulate you. We won't regulate you. You do artificial intelligence. Here's your monopoly. Here you Google. You guys do this. And now Trump will protect you from those crazy Europeans that want to regulate you and censor you. We will protect you from the Chinese that want to steal everything from you. But you got to do one thing in turn. You can do whatever you want, but you got to invest in the United States. You got to create jobs here, and you got to put your investments here. And that was a message I think that they accepted, that Trump, as far as they were concerned, was laissez-faire. As long as they were patriotic and tried to help other Americans by giving them good jobs and improve the infrastructure and the quality of life. I think that's why they're relieved right now. I mean, Trump does not hold a grudge. Mark Zuckerberg paid these various foundations $419 million to destroy Donald Trump in 2020 election. I saw him sitting right next to Donald Trump laughing at that table where they had the tech people in. I thought, wow. And then I've seen him with Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos' Washington Post thought Trump was a monster. So Trump they all think he carries grudges. He's transactional. That's why people like Steve Bannon and the core people criticize him a lot, because they feel that he's not a purist, because he's transactional. He operates within the boundaries of MAGA, but he's fluid within those boundaries.
He's he
A
may
nationalist.
he may forgive, but I think the people that work for him, if you have one tweet from 2015 that is anti-Trump, you are not getting a job in the Trump administration. Hey, anyway, Victor, when we come back from these important messages, I have to tell you the bad news. We're going to be talking about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I'm sorry, Victor, but we'll get to that when we come back.
Are you ready to move easily and independently without pain or stiffness holding you back? Do you want to look in the mirror and see a plumb, hydrated glow instead of more fine lines and wrinkles? Discover Native Path Collagen. Made with only type 1 and 3 collagen fibers, the two most important types that make up 90% of the collagen in your body. Found in your cartilage, bones, skin, hair, nails, and gut, type 1 and 3 provide maximum benefits without the need for unnecessary fillers. Native Path Collagen is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners. Plus, it's third-party tested for heavy metals, ensuring purity and safety. Completely flavorless, Native Path Collagen can be added to anything. Coffee, smoothies, oatmeal, you name it. Its peptide formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes perfectly without clumping. And you can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. Visit getnativepath.com/Victor and start your transformation today. That is GETNATIVEPATH.com/VICTOR. I personally love the PM Collagen formula with melatonin. It's given me many nights of great sleep, and the electrolyte drink mix for my water at workouts. They are my friends, and I'm sure they will be yours.
We are back with the Victor Davis Hanson Show, talking on Sunday, the 14th of September, and this episode is up on Thursday, the 18th. Victor is in the People's Republic of Palo Alto, up there doing some Hoover-y stuff. Victor, what did I do with my notes here? Let's start off with Joe Biden. Well, all I need to say is Joe Biden. Oh, you heard it. Biden Presidential Library facing fundraising problems from reluctant Democrat donors. I won't read the article here out loud, but Victor, nobody wants to pony up for this.
Well, let's say that you're John S. Smith and Biden calls you up, or the family. Would you please give us $10 million, $20 million for the John S. Smith library section of the new Biden library? And you would say, we gave you all this money and you had $1 billion. And then you have that debate and we told you to step down, but you didn't step down for a month or more. And when you did step down, you got this mediocre candidate. You didn't open it up. Then we heard that she got $1 billion. And she was paying everybody from Beyonce to Cardi B to Al Sharpton, and they were renting jets, and they went through it like that, and they lost. And I spent all this money. And you know what? I'm just being hypothetical as John Smith, and I also gave money to that awful monolith in Chicago, the Obama Library. And I was told that this was going to be a model library. That was 10 years ago. You went in and destroyed a beautiful park. You told me it was all going to be DEI hires only. The cement is cracking. It's all substandard. It's ugly, and it's not even open. Where's my money? Where's my Obama library? Where's the John Smith wing? It's not even done. And so now you're going to compete with that ugly monolith with Joe Biden, who was probably the worst president and lost all my investment in him. I'm not going to give you anything. Go get the Chinese. Get Hunter, put him on a plane, and let him go to Ukraine and Romania and China. Hunter, here it is, man. You've got a pardon now. Just don't, shake down people. Don't go back to Mr. Cho or the guy Mr. Ho or whatever his name was, that you had tipped off that if he came here, he'd be indicted. But get on the phone and get the big man and Mr. 10% in the room. That's what they're thinking. They're not going to raise any money.
There will be no Biden library. I wonder what's become of those, the Biden Center at Penn or the
Washington, D.C. Yeah, there's one there.
One at the University of Delaware.
Well, put it this way. If you were an academic and you put all of your laurels there, would you want to say the Joe Biden Center Fellowship for Presidential Study? No. It's the one thing about academics. I'm reviewing an academic book, and this person is blasting the rat race of academia and how white people create all of these fellowships and titles and degrees to alienate the other, and that they're so obsessed with hierarchies of race. And then you look at his bio, and it's all about, I won this and I won that and I got this degree and here's this book. And then you look at the bibliography. It's not published stuff. It's forthcoming, in progress. Academics all talk about how silly honors are, and then they're like Hollywood stars. I don't really care if I get the Academy. And then they get on the phone. Is there any chance you can call that guy up on the thing? And the only guy that really didn't care about it, and he could, was Marlon Brando. He didn't show up. But the best one was George C. Scott. He just said, I think I know what I did. You don't need to tell me what I did. I'm kind of tired. I'm drinking a lot. I'm going to stay home.
He's a great actor, by the way.
That was one of the best performances as Patton anybody's ever done. That was just a work of genius.
Actually, Dr. Strangelove, too, comedic. It was...
Oh, man, he's just... He was... There's about 5 actors like that. One of them is Gary Oldman. When Churchill or any of those nutty vampires, anything he plays. Another one is one of my favorites is Denzel Washington. When I look at him in that movie Man on Fire, did you ever see that?
The plane? Is that the plane
No,
movie?
not that one. He's down in Mexico as a security guard, and this young girl he's protecting is kidnapped, and it's when Christopher Walken has that famous line, everybody, painters do a masterpiece in their field. And he said, Creasy's field is death, and he's about ready to paint his masterpiece. And then he goes after all the cartel people that have kidnapped her. He's just a brilliant actor. Gary Oldman, George C. Scott, oh my gosh, all those guys. Even certain people in my growing up, there was something about Henry Fonda and Jimmy Stewart, those roles they played. And Gary Cooper wasn't a great actor, but man, when he got on that quiet screen and he just looked at you and he took over he's like John Wayne. They weren't classic great actors, but they just took over the whole screen.
It's interesting. The Fountainhead with him, and
that was a great movie.
Yeah, Raymond Massey, who was also kind of a little stiff, like Cooper was stiff. Yeah. But then they had Patricia Neal between them, and gosh, I loved her.
Everybody said she was going to die. Remember, she had a stroke and then she lived for like 40 years.
Yeah. She somewhat of a conservative too.
Yeah, she was really good in Barefoot in the Park. She was the older patron of. I don't know. There's some America. Usually the English have the best actors, but man, when you see a great American actor. There were periods when Paul Newman, when you look at Hombre and stuff, he was a great actor too.
He was.
Not like George C. Scott or Gary Oldman or...
Robert Mitchum also.
He was a good actor. He had a certain role. When they knew what that type of role, Humphrey Bogart, that type of role, Clark Gable, that type of role. But George C. Scott could play anything. So can Gary Oldman. So can Denzel Washington.
You mentioned Henry Fonda. I was talking about him the other day with my daughter. The Oxbow incident, which is just one of the great films, and he was. I'm not the greatest Henry Fonda fan, but he was like really, really good in that. I recommend that.
He was spooky in Once Upon a
listeners.
Time in the West.
Yeah,
That's a classic. Every time I see that movie, I see new intricacies in it. That was a brilliant Sergio Leone movie.
Oh, the beginning of that, they end up. I don't want to give it away to anyone who's watched, but too bad. They kill a family, right?
Yeah, they kill a family. And
they
Woody
kill a boy.
They kill out there. That was Charles Bronson's best movie ever made.
Oh,
he plays the harmonica. That was also. It was just a really great movie, and I think Henry Fonda was a great actor, and so was Jimmy Stewart in certain roles. And I don't see that type of.
I agree.
Actor today.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I'll tell you know who's an actor, by the way, Victor? Kamala Harris. So, so here's the headline. Kamala Harris stumbles onto the truth. She's a whiny liar. And this is Isaac Shore, who used to write at National Review, but he had an op-ed in the New York Post the other day. In a preview of her new presidential campaign memoir, What Happened 107 Days, the former Veep threw her one-time boss under the bus in no uncertain terms, recalling the inter-party panic during the final months of Biden's re-election campaign last year. Harris wrote, "It's Joe and Jill's decision. We all said that like a mantra, as if we had all been hypnotized. In retrospect, I think it was recklessness." She concluded, "The stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition." Victor, your thoughts on whiny Kamala Harris, author?
Because she's whiny and incompetent doesn't mean that she can't be right. And she was right about that. When he stepped down, remember, we've talked about that, I think. Joe Manchin just jumped up and hit the talk shows and said, "I'm here. Hey, everybody, I'm here. We're going to have an open convention. You need a moderate." He was absolutely right. And they squashed that in 2 seconds. And they put her in there. And that was the Black Caucus, basically. A lot of the ranking black members in the House said, "No way are you taking a proud black woman who's been vice president and shunning her aside." They weren't going to shun her aside. They just said, "We're going to have an open 30-day primary, something like that among the delegates." She had run for president in 2020. She pulled out before the first Iowa caucuses. She was completely incompetent. She didn't win a single delegate. And so I don't know why she's whining, because they anointed her that. And I guess she's whining that he ran for a second term. She has a good point. If he hadn't have run, they might have done better if they had not nominated her, because she was not going to win. They had a very good strategy. I thought that their strategy was, well, we picked her in August, and we've just got to run out the clock. We've got half of August, and we got, September, October, and for 75 days, can we hide the fact that she can't speak and she's incoherent? Well, let's not give I think it was about 40 days she didn't give an interview. And then it was, can we hire a bunch of guys to interview her and pay them nicely, like Oprah or Al Sharpton? And, and she went, and then she went on The View, and, Sunny Hostin was trying to, according to script, she just asked a off-script question, where do you differ from Joe Biden? Duh. So
that was a dagger. That was a dagger.
Everybody said she beat Trump in the one debate. It was only because she had a bunch of canned answers, and she just plugged them in whether the question required them or not. It was like...
she did push his button.
Yes, she did. It was sort of like, well, what do you think about fracking? I'm really for the border. The border, I've always wanted border security. And then it was, what do you think about the border? I've always thought of fracking as important. It was just, she had it all, and then she kind of baited Trump. He didn't prepare, and he thought she was going to be like Biden. And the thing about it was, for a week, the polls showed that she won. And she did, superficially. But then when they started showing clips about what the question was and what the answer was, and they didn't connect, and then it looked, by 2 weeks, the polls had them back even. That she didn't win. It was just a tie. But I don't understand, she has gratitude. She had the most left-wing voting record in her brief tenure as a senator, the most left-wing, more than Bernie Sanders. So she was way out of this mainstream. She was against deportation. She wanted to stop fracking. She was for reparations, all the most radical. And then she had to disown them. But the point is, she should have never been nominated. Right before, in June of 2020, she went on Colbert and said these riots won't. She didn't say riot. She called them dim. They won't stop. They should not stop. They're going to go on. Get used. Beware you. It was just, if Trump had said that right before the January 6th, they would have put him in jail. At least he said assemble peacefully and patriotically at the Capitol. She just went on, and then the fact checkers went into panic mode. Oh wait, well this has to be contextualized because she was really talking about only the elements of the protests that were not torching churches or precincts or trying to storm the White House or killing people or injuring. She just meant the peaceful components. So it was a sad chapter. She's not going to have a political future.
Yeah. Well, I do think her appointment or selection nomination 2020, that might be one of the worst political decisions of the last 50 years for Democrats.
Well, I mean, everything has to be looked in the context. Why would somebody do something so stupidly? But it was right after George Floyd, and Trump was trying to call in the National Guard, and they were all resisting him, and they thought he's toast because the whole country's up in flames, the COVID. So what we have to do is get our base, and the base was out in the street rioting, the BLM and the Antifa people. So we'll just announce in advance. They didn't quite say only a black woman, but it said we're looking at a black woman. They said that, and at that time Andrew Cuomo was still viable. And everybody thought he would have been much better, by the way. I'm not a big fan of him, but he can speak well, and he's combative, and he can debate. So he's kind of like Rahm Emanuel, you know what I mean?
Yes.
They're very bright and very capable people. They're like Bill Clinton. I don't agree with him, but then you can see what happened. They said that, and then all of a sudden they got in their little caucus, and they said, hey, Joe, you weren't supposed to say that. Oh, no, not. You weren't supposed to say that, Joe, because who are you talking about? Well, Kamala, Stacey Abrams, the would-be governor, the election denialist. She's never really won anything since a state Senate seat. She's not viable. She's not viable. Kamala Harris, she's not viable. Maxine Waters, who are you talking about? What black woman do we have? I mean, we have a lot of black men that you can think of, Spartacus maybe, but what are you doing? And I think he just went off script. And after that, they were stuck.
Yeah, well, America was stuck too. Victor, turning to Europe and torturing our listeners and viewers with the continued sound of me speaking and reading. I want to raise something. We talked about this a little on the previous podcast, a piece by Rod Dreher. Now, Rod used to write for...
yeah, I remember he did.
American Conservative. Yeah,
Crunchy Conservative, right?
Crunchy Con, yes. Actually, he was my colleague at National Review a long time ago, but now he moved to Budapest, and he writes for the European Conservative, which I heartily recommend folks check out. So I'll cut through. The article is titled "Lawlessness Has a Limit, and the West is Reaching It." Here's what he has to say about, and this is before, he wrote this before Charlie Kirk died, and this is really in reaction to Irina being slaughtered in Charlotte. A violent reckoning is coming, both to Europe and to America, over things like this. And he's talking about a friend from Paris, and she moved to Budapest because I can't live in Paris. Wherever I go, I'm threatened by men. Budapest, Viktor Orban is a safe city relative to most of the other big cities in Europe. At some point, ordinary, law-abiding people are going to get sick of the lawlessness and disorder protected and excused by their degenerate liberal governing elites. We had better hope that the crises will be solved peacefully and orderly by electing courageous, decisive politicians. If not, What then? French intellectual Renaud Camus bluntly articulated the alternatives: submission or war. It's a really powerful article, and I think Rod is a great writer, and he strikes at a fear that I think many of us have. We can see this more intensely, I think, in Europe. But why not coming to America, too?
Yeah, I wrote something similar called The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse a week ago, before Charlie's passing, where I said the European-American fertility rate is not sustainable, especially Europe's. It's lower. The open borders and non-assimilation of people from the Middle East or from Latin America is not sustainable. And the war on fossil fuels is suicidal. And the DEI racism is not sustainable. And anything, as Herb Stein said, basically, if it can't go on, it won't go on. And so I think we're running out of patience. You can't, and when you look at the crime situations, and we talked on the earlier broadcast about Miss Zerutska, and we looked at the tragic killing of the veterinarian retired professor in Auburn, and we looked at Queens, and there's been a lot more. And the family of Carlos Brown were all criminals who had been let out and let out and let out. And then you look at the demographics, and then you juxtapose that to Joy Reid or Maxine Waters or the commentary coming out of the Democratic Black Caucus, or Professor Kendi, or what Mark Milley or Lloyd Austin lecture the country, or Joe Biden about the greatest threat of violence or white supremacism. It's a disconnect. And everybody is saying, these left-wing people live in secure enclaves. They do not get on light rails and sit next to black people with hoods at 10 p.m. like this defenseless girl was without money or a car. So they know that we have a problem, and they know that they are lying when they say the problem is white supremacy. We know that Jesse Smollett from Second One was a pathological. He's back now, trying to recycle his career, saying that bleach doesn't freeze at 30 below zero, and that you can fight off two big black men dressed in whiteface with MAGA hats while you have a noose put around your neck. They throw frozen bleach that magically melts in the Arctic air and douses you and tries to make you white while you hold on to your cell phone and sandwich. And so they believe it. He's back. So I think that's what Rod was trying to say, that when you superimpose that onto the internet climate and the level of hatred and the whole, if you don't believe this guy, did you see him? He's a biological man, and he's now in contention for the Olympic bicycle team, and he's been weighing in on Charlie Kirk and stuff. And you look at him, his physiognomy is just male. I mean, he has no hips, he's got big shoulders, and you're going to put him against women and destroy all of their aspirational careers, hard work to be on that team? It's insane. And so I think everybody's just saying, we're at a fork in the road. This way leads to nihilism and collective suicide. This way goes back to where it was. We don't mean the good old days that had pathologies, but where it was with normality and common sense. And we're going to go this way. And if you try to stop us with violence, I would not do that if I were you. We have the majority, we have the issues, and we're going to start electing candidates. As I keep saying, if everybody wants to honor Charles Kirk's memory, and I sure do, then please go register to vote. On election day, show up at the polls with 2 or 3 of your friends that you give a ride to and vote. And anybody, I hate to say this, in your district who's a Democratic candidate and does not disavow what's going on, vote against them. If they are against ICE, or they think the border was great, or they don't want to use fossil fuels, or they keep using all the racial inflammatory stuff, just vote against them. Don't argue with them. Just say quietly, smile, vote against it. And then ensure there's voter integrity. And that would send the best message. And that would be the Charlie Kirk election.
Yeah. Well, Victor, when we come back from this final break, we're going to get to the academy, and we'll talk about selling of dreams instead of the selling of reality. We'll do that when we come back. If you want to drop extra pounds, boost energy levels, or reduce swelling in your legs and feet, then this message is for you. Pure Health Research is on a mission to make America healthy again, and 2 of their best-selling health supplements are leading the way. First is Liver Health Formula. Over 100 million Americans have a sluggish liver riddled with fatty deposits. This can kill your metabolism, pile on the pounds, and make you feel tired. Liver Health Formula takes care of all that. It supports thriving liver health with special nutrients like artichoke extract and milk thistle. This is one of the easiest ways to slim down and revitalize your energy levels. Next is lymph system support. If you struggle with fluid buildup or swelling in your legs, ankles, or feet, this is for you. This natural ingredient in lymph system support helps gently flush extra fluid and toxins out of your body. And right now, for a limited time, you can get 35% off Liver Health Formula and Lymph System Support, along with all 50-plus health supplements Pure Health Research has to offer. Head over to purehealthresearch.com and use the coupon code VICTOR at checkout. That's purehealthresearch.com with the coupon code VICTOR to save 35% on your order today. We're back with the Victor Davis Hanson Show. I want to encourage you to go to civilthoughts.com. Why would you do that? To sign up for the free weekly email newsletter I write for the Center for Civil Society, Civil Thoughts. And it comes out every Friday, and it's 14 recommended readings. It's free, and we're not selling your name, okay? I know you'll like it. So I get lots of emails from folks who do enjoy it. So please check that out. And again, for Victor, The Blade of Perseus, victorhanson.com. Subscribe, $65 a year. And if you're on X, Victor's handle is at VD Hanson. If you're on Facebook, VDH's Morning Cup. And there's also the Victor Davis Hanson Fan Club, which is a terrific group of people. I think about 70,000 people on that site, that group. Okay, Victor, the James G. Martin Center out of North Carolina is great for academic renewal. It's a terrific site, and there's an article by James Andrews, Selling Dreams, Not Reality. And I don't want to torture our listeners, but I think this is important to set up to get your take. And he uses, this is about colleges, and take this course and, get the degree and you're going to be rich, essentially. So he looks at California State University, Monterey Bay.
Oh my gosh, don't look at that place, please.
Well, he did. And the largest degree of those who were graduating were 290 psychology degrees. So 1 out of every 7 graduates last year had that degree.
Now,
so
why would that be?
Well, how does the school market that, right? They will take this degree because it will lead you, it'll be a launch pad, they say, into a broad spectrum of professional fields. Now, cutting a long story short here, but every field, Victor, everyone, including podcasters, including raisin farmers, etc., the Bureau of Labor Statistics keeps price. How many are there? What is the average pay? All this jazz. So, according to records, let's say you went to this school and you got the psychology degree. What would you be making after 2 years of graduation? $41,000. After 5 years, you'd be making $57,000. Those aren't the wages of licensed therapists or counselor. They're more consistent with jobs that don't require a degree, such as retail supervisor, dispatcher, customer service lead. Not knocking any of those.
How about expert grape picker? And I mean that seriously. There is a family-held corporation. I might as well give them a plug, Fowler Packing. And they have a different idea, as many of these, about farm labor. It's an ennobling experience. And so if you want to be a skilled person who can find grape bunches that are of the right color on the first, second, third picking, and be able to pick them and get up at 5:30 and 6 and get out by 2:30, that's a skill, like a plumber or electrician, and they pay you accordingly by piecework. And these people, some of them are making $60,000, $70,000. They have medical care right there on site, dental care, cafeteria. So this is the Mondami effect. These are children of the middle and upper middle classes that were told to go to college, take out a loan. They did, major in sociology or psychology, kind of laid back, easy courses, gut courses. 80% of all grades given at Yale are A's, and I can tell you at the CSU it's about like that probably. And then just lay back, party, get involved on campus politics, and take 6 or 8, drop out a semester. And then when you're 27 or 28, get your psychology degree after 6 or 7 years of college. You got a couple of girlfriends, maybe, you don't plan on buying, you can't buy a house, you're bitter. I can't buy a house in California. They're $1 million. I got $150,000 in student fees. So that's the nucleus of the Mamdani effect. And it's too bad because these universities do not follow the basic principles of car salesmen. When I went and had no money and I went to go buy cars, which was most of my life until the last 10 years, when I started having a decent salary, you would go there and they would say, Mr. Hansen, now this car loan is at 9%, and it is $480 a month for 8 years or something. Now, what is your salary? And you would give them the salary. And they said, what is your total income tax, etc.? This is your net income. How are you going to allot that per month to pay? Are you going, and that depended on whether you got a loan or not. Why don't we tell 18-year-olds, this is the amount of money we're going to charge for tuition, room, and board over 4 to 6 years. Here is a list of 50 majors. These majors, after 10 years, get this type of income. Doesn't mean you will be better or worse than the average, but we have to, by law, tell you. Now, this is what you will owe per month when you graduate. We want you, and this is how you're going to pay it back. This is how much money. And we don't do that. We just say, oh, I went to college. I got a gateway to the upper middle class. No, you don't. And universities know that, and they still use you as fodder. And so they indoctrinate you, and they say, we're going to talk about, I know it's on psychology, but we're going to talk about Charlie Kirk. We're going to talk about Hamas because it's easy. That's the sins of omission. They indoctrinate you, but they use indoctrination because they're intellectually lazy and they don't want to do their own work. I can tell you, if you taught 4 classes, and I taught 5 for most as an overload at the CSU for 20 years, and you have to have an average of 25, and for me to get a Greek class of 9 and Euripides, I had to get 60 or 70 in U.S. and classical history. You go home every 2 weeks with 100 blue books, 100 papers. I have pictures of my life in my 30s and 40s, and it's just me sitting in front of a TV with my kids with a pack of blue books. And that's a hard job to do. And they're not doing that now. They don't correct grammar and syntax and write on the margin like we used to do. And I did not have time to politicize in class. Never. And college is not a good deal anymore. They would be much better young people, if you're going to major in sociology or psychology, please go to a trade school or a junior college, learn how to be an expert welder, electrician, carpenter, anything, and your life will be better than a sociologist, I guarantee you. And then get your BA if you want, but get that skill. And then when you're 55 and your back is out from plumbing, then become a teacher. But this is a road to perdition if you go to this university. And you go in. The biggest topic I've had from emails from people to me and people I meet, I've never had this before, except for the last 2 years. Mr. Hansen, I have an 18-year-old. He wants to go to UCLA. Mr. Hansen, I have a 19-year-old first year at University of Texas. Mr. Hansen, I'm here in Montana. It's a very conservative, but my child will be going to the University of Montana next year. And then I said, yes, I won't recognize them at Thanksgiving. That's what I'm afraid of. They're going to go there and they're going to come back. And I already have my oldest child who came back and gave me the trans thing and the BLM thing and I don't recognize them, and I have to pay for it, and they insult me. Where can I send my child that won't be indoctrinated as a Manchurian candidate, sort of? And I give them the, St. Thomas Aquinas, Grove City, Hillsdale, the same thing, Claremont. But I don't think these professors and these university administrators know what they've done to their brand. The 2020 riots and all of the George Floyd and the DEI and now what they're doing after October 7th and after Charlie, they have destroyed their brand. They have.
I have to make, are you finished, Victor?
Yes, I am.
Are you finished? I have to note that you said the Fowler company had nothing to do with Jack Fowler, but the city of Fowler, which is next to Selma, and that the school you just mentioned that you wanted to say was Thomas Aquinas College.
Yes,
right.
But there is a St. Thomas, isn't there?
There is, and it's
left wing. Sorry, I misled everybody.
Okay. No, you didn't. No, we've took the opportunity to correct.
Thank you.
All right, Victor, we've come to the end. I have two comments I want to read, and folks, thousands of people are leaving comments on the YouTube of this show, Rumble, Apple, Victor's own website. Here's one from Victor's website, The Blade of Perseus, from Verna Wangler, who wrote, both of these are in relation to the Charlie Kirk assassination. Why would anyone be surprised by this assassination? It has been several decades since conservatives have been able to speak on college and university campuses without the possibility of appalling violence breaking out. Like Victor, I taught at a Cal State University and experienced firsthand both the leftism of the administration and faculty and the loathing of this country by many international students who never planned to leave. So thank you, Verna, for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I gave a talk at a CSU campus. I'll not name the name. It could be my own at the time. I won't mention it. And it was on Western Civ. The dean was wonderful. He invited me each year to give one. And in the audience, a person asked a sharp question. She was with 3 other people. And the next week, when I was walking over to teach a graduate class in historiography of the ancient world, the dean's people, the dean who was sitting there, who asked a negative question, had 3 faculty members. They were in a car with, I would call, criminals, and as I walked along the sidewalk to my class, they drove up in a car and went exactly like 2.5 miles for 300 yards. And they had berets on, and they looked at me, and they started saying, "Oh, who are you? I think I know who you are. You're Mr. West." And they followed me. And I said, "I know who you are." And so I went to the dean, and I said, "Your faculty members from the School of Social Science have been threatening me." And she said, "Well, you're provocative." And I said, "No, you were provocative. You asked the question that was provocative that didn't want an answer." There was kind of an end note to this because this is typical of Karens. So I go to a car lot in Selma, right? And I go in to buy a car. This is like 20 years ago. And they say, "What's your occupation?" I said, "CSU professor." And they said, "Could we look at your credit rating?" And I said, "Why?" I said, "We had this dean that came from Fresno, and we were giving this sale, and we were selling, basically it was either a Hyundai or a Kia below market price, and she haggled and screamed and yelled at us that we were ripping her off unless we would lose about $3,000 on the car." And then when we finally made the deal and had no money profit, then she started wanting credit. I said, "I know that dean very well. She threatened me with her lieutenants." So
I think
that's
she stole
academia.
She stole the ball at that Phillies game.
She was exactly like that.
Yeah. All right. One other comment this is from YouTube. Gen X America writes, "When you look at the history of Charlie Kirk, He was the grassroots of the MAGA movement in 2012, long before Trump was involved, organically at 18 from his parents' garage, and he never gave up. Since 2020, with his commitment to Christianity, he has appealed to young people because they need hope for humanity and for the future. He told the truth in a media propaganda era full of lies for political domination. It was Charlie's divine purpose, and he built a strong following of over 85 million. Turning Point will continue to get stronger and grow. Light always overcomes darkness. Thank you, Gen X America. Thank the many, many other people who take the time and effort to leave comments and praise Victor and say, Fowler, shut up. All right, I'll say.
No, they don't say that.
Oh, Madonna me, do they ever? Hey, Victor, you've been terrific. I hope you get take some more of those pills you're taking and get a little rest.
I haven't taken any pills. I'm just trying. I'm up here.
Whatever.
I'm up here marooned doing tests and scans of solve this problem. So
it's early in the day in California. I assume it's sunny, so you go outside and get a little sunshine.
It's always sunny in California.
Okay. Well, Victor, you've been terrific.
Thank you,
folks.
everybody.
Thanks very much, and we'll be back soon with another episode of the Victor Davis Hanson Show. Bye-bye.
Thank you.